And we are live here at the headquarters of Scarce City. I am Chris Tremount. I will be your host today. Just a pleb, co-founder of Scarce City. We have a very special event for you today. We are auctioning off Fractal Encrypt's Bitcoin full node sculpture number 4 of 10. We will be joined by the mastermind behind this masterpiece here shortly. We already have a bid, folks. Marcus Connor coming through with 50,000 sats. We'll be covering any incoming bids as they come through. And we're also going to be interviewing Fractal Encrypt, getting behind the artwork and getting through the intricate details of this thing. Before we do that, I'm going to kick us off with a quick introduction on Lightning Auctions for anyone who's new here. In a nutshell, Lightning Auctions, this is an auction platform that keeps participants accountable for their bids by collateralizing them with instant, low-fee, anonymous Lightning Network payments. So you can find this auction page on scarce.city. It's the first big button you can click on. It'll take you to this auction site. We've got some nice videos and images for you to get a full flavor of this wonderful piece. We've got a summary of the description of this, but to get the full details, you're really going to have to hear Fractal Encrypt go over it himself, or get inside this Bitcoin Magazine article. It'll take you through all the details. So let's say you're ready to place a bid. We have Chief Monkey coming through with a pending bid. I have a feeling that one's going to confirm. You input how much you want to bid. Let's say you want to bid 200,000 sats. We do the math here for you. We convert to US dollars. We tell you how much collateral is going to be required for that bid. The way the collateral works is you need to maintain 3% collateral on your highest bid. So on your first bid, you'll pay 3% of that. And with any future bids, you'll top off that collateral to maintain 3% collateral overall. But you don't have to worry about those details. Just check out the math we do here for you. Put in the email address. If it's your first time using Lightning Auctions, you'll be prompted to input a display name. And if you're good with this, go ahead and press place bid. We'll give you the details here, everything you need to know. And once you're ready, you press confirm. You'll be directed to BTC Pay server. Lightning is the default payment option. If you're good with this, press copy. Select this text right here. You're copying the invoice and you throw that into your Lightning wallet, or you scan it with your mobile, scan the QR code with your mobile wallet here. You can also pay on-chain. However, we do need a confirmation for these on-chain bids. It needs to confirm within the standard auction time or the bid will be canceled. And these on-chain bids, they will be disabled in the final 15 minutes of the auction to keep the action going. All right, so I am going to back out of this bid. You can see my bid is pending. It will cancel in just a few minutes. And here we are. We've got Peter Parker in the lead with Satoshi pending at 250,000 sats confirmed. Looks like we might have 350,000 sats here in a few. What else is important? If you want to scroll down here, we have a video for you where you can see this auction play out all the way through. What's in here? We have, 1 second. Yeah, needed to refresh that page. Like I said, deposit 3% of your bid collateral, with your bid, and you just top it off for additional bids. We do have a cap of 3 million sats on the bid deposits. So if you want to YOLO into a huge bid, you can do so with a 3 million sat deposit and stay within the comforts of the Lightning zone or Lightning network constraints. Once the auction has expired, the countdown has gone down to 0. The winning bidder will have 24 hours to pay their bid. If they don't, they lose their collateral, and the next highest bidder has their chance to pay the bid. Once the item is paid for, deposits are refunded to the remaining participants. Hot zone. This is the final 15 minutes of the auction. Any bids placed within these final 15 minutes, they reset the countdown to 15 minutes. So there's no sniping a last minute bid to win the auction. The auction cannot end on a pending bid. So what this means is if somebody goes through and places a bid, they have at least 3 minutes to actually pay that invoice. During that 3 minutes, even if the clock is supposed to be at 0, the clock will freeze, see a message that says pending bid, and only when that invoice expires will the auction end, or if they pay it, the clock will be reset to 15 minutes. And like I said, on-chain bid deposits no longer accepted within the final 15 minutes. Here you got your shipping information. The way this works is the winner will pay a $600 deposit on top of their final balance. Once the item ships, we will refund the difference on that $600. Buyer is responsible for any import taxes. If you want to open a Lightning channel with us for a super smooth bid experience and to minimize your fees you're paying over the Lightning Network, here's the key to do that. And if you're new to Lightning, these are the wallets we recommend. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, we do delete customer data once goods are delivered. Once we don't need your physical mailing address anymore, we delete it. We're trying to protect your privacy here. All right. Well, without further ado, let's see where we are with the auction. Peter Parker on top with 450,000 sat bid. We're going to go ahead and welcome on Fractal Encrypt and get this party started.
Thanks for having me.
Hey, Fractal Encrypt, how you doing, man?
Doing good. How you doing?
I'm doing great.
Awesome.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling excited. I'm excited. This is great. We already got bids. Looks like a great day.
We got bids. We got Satoshi on top with 500,000 sats.
Woo-hoo.
So yeah, we're pumping strong.
Nice.
I have to ask you before we jump into this. We started this at 3:33 p.m. Eastern time. You chose the time. Is there any significance behind that?
Whoa, 3's the magic number, of course. And then you have Tesla, who tells us if you understand the 3, 6, and 9, you'll understand all there is in the universe. So yeah, 3:33.
That sounds right on brand with with the way your mind works and the way this masterpiece is laid out. All right, cool, man. Well, let's jump into it. I got to start off with the token Bitcoin interview question. How did you get into Bitcoin?
All right, cool. Well, I'm happy to answer that. If we're going to jump into the live stream, then I could just share out my screen so we have something cool to look at here.
All right, yeah, let's throw that out.
All right, there we go. All right, so how did I get into Bitcoin? Great question. I got into Bitcoin through art. So I actually heard of Bitcoin around, I want to say 2011, 2012, when the Gawker article came out. There was some kind of darknet market that got in trouble, and Bitcoin went from $70 to $7. So I remember hearing about it at that time. I always say it has to come into your life a few times before some of this stuff clicks. So fast forward to 2015, I had somebody reach out to me on the internet and just ask me if I would accept Bitcoin for my art. And I was like, yeah, I heard of this. I know what it is, but I have no idea how to accept it. So I had the guy walk me through it. He told me how to set up a wallet, and he sent me the Bitcoin. I sent him his art, and he was in Brazil, so I was in a different country. So this is like a cross-border payment that was just super smooth and easy. So easy that I forgot about that Bitcoin that was sitting there for a good year or so, which turned out really much to my benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. That's very cool, man. That's not the first time I've heard of artists being introduced to Bitcoin early because of customers wanting to pay them through Bitcoin. It's nice to see. It's nice to see artists getting an early heads up on this type of thing. You feel like that doesn't happen often enough.
Absolutely. I'm thankful for that anonymous internet stranger from Brazil. Absolutely. Thank you, whoever you are.
Oh yeah. All right. So how did you start making Bitcoin art?
Well, I mean, because of that Bitcoin that I got in 2015, I still had a little of it in 2017, and the same guy that kind of introduced me to it said, "Hey, you got to check your account." So I did, and the price had drastically changed, and I kind of watched like this tiny amount of Bitcoin that I had just rise, and like it caught my imagination in the sense that there was something weird going on with this. I was used to getting paid in dollars, and if I hold a dollar, it's worth a dollar next year. It's worth a dollar 2 years from now, and something was going on with this Bitcoin thing. So I just kind of started looking into it. I heard that you can't help what you get interested in life, So as a human, we all get interested in different things. So this just caught my attention, and once I started looking in, I found that there was no end to the depth, and I was kind of never getting to the bottom of that rabbit hole. And I just love stuff like that, especially new stuff where there's a lot of room to develop and grow. So it just really caught my imagination, and it just went straight line from that interest into art, because I've been doing art since I was very young.
That's awesome, man. Very cool to hear. Well, let's jump into this thing. How about you tell us what you created here and walk us through the details.
All right, let me just switch my screen here.
And while you're doing that, I got to cover this fresh bid. Steve Munchin Butt. It's about time Steve could do something good. 650K sats. Love to see it, Steve.
Wow, nice. Beautiful. All right, so let's see. I think I shared it out.
All right, throwing it up now.
Beautiful. Cool. All right, so here it is. We're going to go through the whole thing, but I just wanted everybody to get that at the beginning. So the first thing to really know about it is that it's made to be a working Bitcoin full node and block explorer. So the very outer edge, some little oval shaped pieces, and those are actually supposed to display your live block stats. So whatever's on your node at that minute in your GUI, this is exactly what's displayed here. So your current block hash, the hash rate, whatever the block timestamp is, block height, mempool size. So all that's recorded there in those pieces. It's also made to be both a clock and a calendar, in the sense that it measures Bitcoin time all the way down to the minute. And then, of course, it goes up to the hour, day, all the way through the months of the year. And then it actually tracks all 132 years of Bitcoin time, going from 2009 to 2140. The cutout sections that you see here, these represent the Bitcoin distribution by the halving cycle. So each of these represents one of the halvings. So you can see very clearly here, this was one of the major revelations I had, how critical it is to kind of act now before we go into this hyper compression of Bitcoin issuance, where I think after about 2035 or 2040, something like that, every single block is only going to have a single Bitcoin reward or less for this 100-year period. So we're still in a period, I think we're right about here, where it's still possible to accumulate some Bitcoin. I mean, a Bitcoin right now is pretty much an entire year's salary for most of the country. So it's becoming unattainable to hold a whole many people, but it's still able to hold quite a bit of sats. So, there's still plenty of room to get in. And I always tell people you want to have about a 8-year time horizon when you buy Bitcoin. So if you ever buy Bitcoin, you want to go through 2 of these halving cycles before you would ever consider letting any go. And real Bitcoiners don't ever sell, they'll just spend. So once the economy turns to a time where you could just straight up spend your Bitcoin at the merchant, then that's how it goes. And that's exactly what this is. So people that are spending their Bitcoin here are at that level. They're not selling their Bitcoin, they're using it in the circular Bitcoin economy. So this is real shit.
The only good excuse to spend your Bitcoin is to spend it on Bitcoin art.
For sure. Well, because then almost assuredly you're feeding it into the ecosystem. You're helping the distribution through the network and through the community. So yeah, that's the kind of spends you want to do.
For sure.
This is a quick look. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I could get deep here. So this is like a map of the entire structure. This is what I had to design first before we could go to a point where we had laser cut pieces. Even this, I had to actually refine into each little piece of wood, how it's cut, how they fit together. But this is the full map. So this is how everything fits together. And it's really amazing to see how some things line up. You know, this outer wheel here is like the wheel of time. So tracking the 132 years of Bitcoin time. And if you find the current year, come down like a clock and you'll hit, you know, that you're at block 630 or 630,000, you know, the amount of Bitcoin that you're getting per block, the 6.25, the amount per day, 900 Bitcoin per day. So, and it just kind of goes down as if there's an imaginary clock hand here.
Love it.
So here's a little description of the layering. So each of the layers has its own little story that it tells. So I'll spend a few minutes on this little image because I think it's going to illustrate a lot of the stuff I'm going to show in a few minutes. So we'll start at the outer edges, which is the easiest since it's one here. So in ring one, it's divided into two sections. You have a yellow section and an orange section. So the yellow section is static. That never changes. Those are like headers in essence. So it's your hash rate, your difficulty, your block height, block timestamp, the blockchain size, all this stuff that is more the header, and what is in the orange ring is the information that goes in that header. So that's where we see that the block height is 630,000. The current USD price is 8,600. You know, all that stuff will change every 10 minutes. So as it finds a new block, all the information in that yellow ring will update. So this top middle oval here, which is this big piece, that is the current block hash. There's a couple of Bitcoin ethos at the very top. So I put the Bitcoin full node so you know what you're doing at the true north. We got cypherpunks write code, not your keys, not your coins. Don't trust, verify, and we are all Satoshi. I do want to be clear that the we all Satoshi, you know, that's like, he could be you, he could be me, he could be anybody. He just can never be Craig Wright.
Well-deserved jab to Craig Wright.
So, all right. So let's run through again. So wheel number 2, I kind of explained a moment ago. That's the wheel of time. So this is each one of the sections represents one single year. Sections of 4 represent a halving cycle. So you'll notice a little raise there, and we'll see that a little clearer in a second, but each year it raises up a little higher. You can see how you're close you're getting to the next halving. So you have these little 4-year cycles that are packed together. And line 3 or layer 3 is going to be our halving distribution. I did kind of cover that a moment ago. So you'll see each year that begins that halving cycle, and that kind of runs the course again through the whole time. So instead of doing something like this where each year is the same, here we see the years are stretched proportionally based on the distribution in that halving period. Yeah. What's hidden underneath here is a little halving crest. So it has the mathematical formula that describes what's happening in the rest of the ring. Ring 5 is, oh, I'm sorry. See, it's easy to miss this ring 4. It's really super tiny. There's some hidden encoded information. We'll touch on that in a minute. And so then you get to ring 5 next, which is the Merkle tree ring layer. So this was a layer that was completely redesigned. Also, the time wheel was completely redesigned, but this Merkle tree ring was completely redone from the previous versions that I had there. So this one I'm kind of proud of, and it took the most amount of time. There's also the most densely packed amount of information in that ring compared to all the others. So that one is a real teaching experience, and you know, it's kind of meant to spark conversation between Bitcoiners, no coiners, anybody, you know. So that one's really meant to be a pretty heavy teaching and learning tool.
Yeah, I love reading about that because it just gave a little bit of an example of how much thought and iteration went into this thing. It looks like you spent hours, days, weeks, months just refining the Merkle tree visualization.
Yeah, it was definitely in the order of probably months. That is one thing. I'm very slow as an artist when I'm doing this highly detailed work, because I don't mind putting in the time, investing the time, because I know once I'm done, I'm going to have something that, will be timeless in some sense. And I even had somebody tell me something. This is a very neat thing because it's relevant today and it's relevant all the way into the future of Bitcoin. So I thought that was a really high compliment.
Awesome, man.
All right, so let's jump into 6 real quick. So 6 is just block height by the end of the year. So whatever year you see in ring 2, if you swing down, that's going to be the block height at the end of that year. These block heights, again, they stack into rows of 4 that are captured by these 4-year stones below, and these are a halving amount. So that'll tell you what the block reward is per block within that halving cycle. So obviously you started at 50 Bitcoin per block, then you go to 25, 12 and a half, 6, and as it goes down by halving cycle there.
Very cool.
Row 9, this tracks how much Bitcoin per year and per day. So in the middle, it will show the year at the beginning of that halving cycle. Above it is the how much Bitcoin per day, and below is how much Bitcoin per year are issued, again, within this halving cycle. And again, it basically goes up in a little block that kind of is continuous. That's really neat. And I really love how this happened. And this wasn't even really me. This is like Satoshi. I'm just mapping out within Bitcoin. This isn't really me being creative. This is just lining up because it's so elegantly created.
Yeah, but you visualizing it just takes it to another level. We always talk about scarcity. We always talk about the halving. I think most Bitcoiners know it happens every 4 years, and they could probably spit off the schedule to some extent. But seeing it just really, it drives home with such the power of the message of these
Awesome.
these Bitcoins are running out, and you could talk about it all day, but there's nothing compared to seeing it in this type of representation.
I think there's something impactful about art, just like you're saying, because you can see something and it's immediately impactful in a way that you might need 44 pages to explain here.
Absolutely.
All right, so it's back on track. So in row 11, this is the first Bitcoin transaction that ever happened. So down here, it tells us that it happened on January 11th, 2009. It tells us it happened in block height 170. And it tells us that Satoshi paid from this address, which is a Coinbase address. He paid 50 Bitcoin, goes through the mempool here. And then it comes out in 2 payments. So he sent Hal Finney 10 Bitcoin. So that is the top transaction here. And then he got 40 Bitcoin back. So I think that's really interesting how Bitcoin has the idea of a change address and a receive address. And it's just how you experience cash in the real world. So if you go to 7-Eleven, you have a $50 bill, you get a $10 item, you're not getting your 50 back. They're getting 2 other 20s or different bills back. So Bitcoin works the same way. And it's beautiful. And I don't know if everybody knows that that's how it works, that you do have a change address, and it's almost never the same address that you're spending from, especially now with HD wallets and the way that wallets are created and stuff. So that's a little teachable moment there. 12 gets kind of intense. It's a ruler that tracks block height by year and block number. So we'll go through that a little lower in the list here because or lower in the page here because that's hard to see here. The next ring, 13, is every single equation from the Bitcoin white paper. These arcs here in 15, they represent block time. So there's 10 sections there that are in a kind of wavy arc, and that represents the Poisson distribution, that not every block comes in 10 minutes, but it's like that's harmony for Bitcoin would be 10 minutes. So you have this stretchable time that, it moves. Some blocks come quicker, some blocks come longer. but over time you get this many. So that's what the little arc with the lines there represents. The B there has some encoded information as well. So there's the first payment address ever. So in the Genesis block was mined, there was some unspendable Bitcoin that were sent to an address. That's Satoshi's address. So we have the Merkle hash of that block as well as the address, because that's actually encoded in every real Bitcoin full node. So because that one can't be independently verified, that's actually be encoded within the node. So we within the node too. 16, 17, 18, 19. These are super interesting. I'm going to cover it below a little more. It's hard to see here. So I think we'll just begin to scroll down. So this area here, it touches all those little node stats. So here we see the stats for block height 630,000, which is what the node is set to. It's the halving that we all just experienced. I think this was a pretty momentous experience that we're all going to remember for a long time. So this is commemorating that. So we have the current block hash rate at the time, difficulty, the block height, block timestamp, the chain size, mempool size, the transactions weight. Not a lot of people think about transactions having weight, but yes, there's a weight and a size, a number of transactions in each block, the average block times in this halving cycle, the current issuance. So at this time, there's 18.375 million. The nonce, so this is what allows you to construct the whole block. This is what solves it. The block reward, which even though it was supposed to be 6.25, there's fees in every block that the miners get. So there's 7.16 BTC reward. This many active addresses, about 600,000. USD price of $8,657. Y'all remember that? And software version at the time, 0.19.1. Then here we just cover those Bitcoin ethos. The wheel of time, and here you can see closer the halving cycle. So the very first year of the halving cycle in 2009 is the lowest. Then you go 2010, 2011, 2012, and once you reach the highest one, then the next one automatically tracks your halvings.
Yeah,
this talks about the cutoff. Yeah, this was an innovation that I did that's new on this number 4. So the other ones didn't have this. And I really think this makes the whole look so dynamic, the way that it kind of lays up. And I was really pleased in the end. Sometimes you have this stuff in your mind, you go through all this work to design it, you cut it, you put it out, and it's like, no, but I have a huge discard pile of all the stuff I thought would be cool and wasn't.
Makes it all worth it when it looks good in the end.
Well, that's the thing, because it's my own machine, my own time. I don't mind cutting something 4 or 5 times. In fact, every single piece that you see here on this sculpture was cut at least 3 times. You know, I get it, I cut it, it's not perfect, there's something wrong here, there's something wrong there. I don't like this color wood, it doesn't match with the other color wood. So yeah, there's like the final version has a lot of iterations that are gone through. There's the mathematical equation on the halving crest. Couldn't see it before very well, but that's a nice cut close up. Yeah. One thing I do like to point out is that there's 33 halvings that have a block reward. However, in the code, it references 64 halvings. So there's like a whole bunch of extra halvings that are accounted for in the code that right now don't really mean anything. So it's one of those Satoshi mysteries. My buddy Johnny Dollar was like, yo, that 33 means something. And I was like, you know, he's always got a lot of good, you know, insight. So I think there's a lot there with that 33. Again, 3 is the magic number. We're starting the auction at 333. You know, there's a lot going on with this stuff. So there's a lot of depth. So I do like to point out that type of stuff in the art, because a lot of times it might not come up in day-to-day conversation about Bitcoin.
Yeah,
so this is the very tiny layer. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I could talk forever.
No, you're good, man. You're good. I just wanted to jump in about how much I love like I'm realizing as you're talking through this, it's like, this is so much more than art. It's also a state of the network. But beyond that, it's, it's education of the network. Like, I'm learning so much just from hearing you talk about this.
Yeah, this is fun. I've never got to actually explain the whole thing to anybody. And I think having this article that Bitcoin Magazine let me publish here really helped me lay it all out. I do suggest everybody checking this out, even though we're running through this. This is like highly linked. So there's a million links in here as you're going through that you can go down different rabbit holes and find stuff, whatever's interesting to you. Because, I know not everything might catch everybody's opinion.
Yep.
So a few things. This is layer 4. That was that super tiny ring that we barely even saw. There's some encoded binary language there. So I tested out a whole bunch of different phrases to see what was cool. Like we did Bitcoin fixes this. I said stock to flow ratio was cool. I like 1 CPU, 1 vote. Have fun staying poor. You'll see there. Bitcoin voting club. None of those made the cut in the end for one reason or the other. Like a lot of times the aesthetic of the ones and zeros don't work for me. So it is what it is. So we have everything divided by 21 million, which is one of those dynamic one-liners from Newt's Philhelm that just tickles my brain. And it's like you start thinking about it, and it's like there's everything in the world, all the real estate, the gold, everything of value becomes consumed by the Bitcoin organism. So it's like, I don't know, that really tickled my mind. And there's a great little video that they did with that. So I linked that there. The next thing, Craig Wright is a fraud. So we need that clearly spelled out and encoded there. So that's just, we're Bitcoin culture. That's what we do. And, we are all Satoshi.
We are all Satoshi.
Except for,
Except for Craig Wright.
So we have our own Voldemort, I guess. Anyways, this Merkle tree layer, like I said, this is probably the one that took me the longest amount of time. The design that I had in 1 through 3 worked, but I thought it could be better. And one of the things that stuck with me was I was talking to Johnny Dollar again at some Bitcoin conference in Miami that they had. We were outside of actually the Versace mansion. They let me show version 1 inside the Versace mansion in Miami Beach right before all this COVID thing happened. So that was a really cool experience. We got to bring Bitcoin and high society. Anyways, he was like, dude, those are not Merkle trees. There's no Merkle tree there. I said, well, it's a tree. It's like artistic license. So now they have Merkle trees. So you can see clearly here the Merkle tree structure, and they're in Merkle trees. And also I like the trees because they kind of have a mushroomy shape, which kicks that like mycelium of money vibe that Brandon Quinton has. So the other thing is like the Merkle trees are basically how Bitcoin works. So there's a connection from the current block, the chain tip, all the way back to Genesis. So you see these Merkle trees are actually linking to each other all the way back to Genesis. And there's little blocks. Each block is one of the Platonic or Archimedean solids, because like Bitcoin blocks are all unique. So instead of making them just a cube, each one has a different weight, different shape, different size. So these solids, I've heard that they compose what all the matter in the universe is made of through these geometric solids. So by lining them out, there's 18 of those. And there's 21 Merkle trees. So the 21 references, of course, 21 million. Now we have 18 of these block shapes connected by these 3 pillars of Bitcoin understanding. So you have 18 plus 3. So again, that's 21, which is a triangular number. So we have our 3 pillars of Bitcoin. You have the social, the technical, and the financial. So the social encompasses pretty much everything, like all the community aspects, the politics, the the human interaction, peer-to-peer stuff, whereas technical is more like what's under the hood and like what's making this thing actually work. And financial, of course, I think we all know, is kind of like a tip to the hat to Saifedean's like monetary properties. So divisibility, fungibility, verifiability, portability, divisibility, things like that. So I talk here about the little 3 pillars of Bitcoin: social, technical, financial, and then I go through each one. So the social has these little 6 sub sections. So the first one is just the legend of Satoshi. So it's just, I love it. Like a person with perfect OPSEC comes out of nowhere. He drops a white paper on a cryptographic mailing list and then pretty much stays around long enough to bootstrap the network and disappears. So it's just a really beautiful legend. So of course, tip a hat to that. The Immaculate Conception, a really cool concept of how Bitcoin was created in a world where there was no value assigned, and pretty much any shitcoin that's created right now is banking off of that Bitcoin valuation. Like they know, hey, there's money to be made here. When Bitcoin was bootstrapped, there wasn't a thing. There wasn't even a price for Bitcoin for like 2 years. So, right. I mean, what happened at that time cannot be replicated. So that's kind of the idea there. Open source needs no explanation. Bitcoin's free and open source software. Decentralized, again, peer-to-peer. I think this is one of the really critical things is that, no one can tell us no. I could send you money. You could send me money. I could sell my art for Bitcoin. Who could stop us? This is beautiful. Yeah. And then I have eco-friendly. So this is my favorite one. This is also the most controversial one because you have the people that say, Bitcoin boils the seas and, we're using as much energy as Sweden, and they don't understand what's going on. Where actually, like, Bitcoin could be one of the things that revolutionizes the way humans use energy, find energy, move energy around, and even moves themselves around to remote stranded sources of energy to then connect into the network and create like a prosperous life for people in really cool remote places. So I'm super bullish and like excited on the eco-friendliness of Bitcoin and where we're going with that. So like that was important to put in for me.
Yeah, that's a narrative we don't hear enough of, I think. So it's cool to see.
Yeah, exactly. I like to do something thought-provoking. Another thing I'll point out here is in this crest, you could see the halving distribution ring is kind of repeated here. So you do kind of have references within references. And then this little math equation here is the SCEP 256.1K equation that's used to basically define all the math that runs through Bitcoin. So that kind of defines how you have public and private key combos. So that's all in there. Now, the technical, so this is really, like it says, this is the technical stuff. This is how does it all work? So we have proof of work, linked time stamping, which it was so critical, that 3 of the 8 references in the Bitcoin white paper are linked time stamping references. So that's there's 3 of the 4 here. Merkle trees are in the Merkle tree layer, of course, so self-referencing. ECDSA, so this is that equation, the ECDSA, and SHA-256 is a hashing algorithm. So again, everything in Bitcoin is run through this pretty much 2 times. Difficulty adjustment. This is one of those, again, really genius things, but you can't have Bitcoin without this. This makes it so that no matter how much compute power you throw at the network, your Bitcoin should be coming out at about 10 minutes every block. So genius type shit.
Yep.
All right. So financial. So this is all the financial stuff. So I have my gold 2.0 reference here. We start with digital scarcity because I think that's one of the coolest things is like that either invention or discovery, depending what you call it, of digital scarcity. We really never had that before where you didn't have, you could still copy all the information, but unless you have the private key to move it, your copy of it's not going to do you any good. So it's mind-blowing stuff. So that's right up first and foremost, digital scarcity. Durability. So with gold, you have something that's elemental. It can never break down. It can never rust. It can never degrade. It's an amazing like that. So Bitcoin is the same way. It's super durable as long as you treat it properly. Fungibility, each one is equal. Verifiable, another super insane thing. So with gold, if I paid you in a gold bar, you have to verify that this is gold. Did I put something in the middle and what's the quality and what's the purity? So a Bitcoin full node, if Bitcoin show up in your wallet, it's verified. It's real. So that you have a whole chemistry assay sit and lab just in a full node. Yeah. Portable, divisible, I mean, what's more divisible than 100 million to one? And now with Lightning, people are even making Satoshi payments and stuff. So, I mean, super divisible, super portable. And one of the very important things, unforgeable costliness. So this is like, I believe it's Nick Szabo. Oh yeah, I have the reference here. Nick Szabo has the idea that when you're mining gold, you can't just come up and magically have more gold. You have to put in work to get this gold out of the ground. So you're not just going to magically make more. So there's an unforgeable costliness that's tied into gold, and Bitcoin has that same property through the mining infrastructure. So this is, as I mentioned, I went through a few iterations of the Merkle trees. This was the original one that Johnny Dollar said doesn't have any Merkle trees. He's right. And so this was the original design. I spent a really long time. I came up with this, which looks super awesome when you're zoomed in. It has little like ones and zeros at the roots of the tree growing a mountain. When I tried to laser cut this, it basically burned the wood. Like, it's too detailed. So sometimes I run into those like limitations of the tools that I have. So you can only do as much detail as it can capture. So this is what I came to after burning a whole bunch of wood. And this one I was actually more happy with, because this one, it might be cool, but again, there's 0 Merkle trees in this. It doesn't capture it. So I think it was the universe really pushing me and saying, hey, nope, this one's not ready yet. And we ended up here, which I do feel has more harmonious, more balance, and has a lot more to tell in terms of the story.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you came up with the perfect visualization there.
Thank you. So this here is something super cool that I do want to point out. So this is like block height at the end of the year. And you could see how like this 630,000 block in the big ring lines up perfectly with the distribution per block, moving from 12.5 Bitcoin to block to 6.25 Bitcoin per block, like right there. So that to me was just super cool to see how that just all lines up so perfectly. So it's like, yep, right on time. The clock is ticking.
Yep.
So block reward by halving area, it's the 34 containers that they have here that hold the block reward information. This talks about some more encoded information. There's another very thin layer, which has, this stuff is not encoded in the same way the other stuff where it was binary. This is like actually just like straight up engraved in there. So the Bitcoin sovereignty through mathematics was like such a powerful statement to me. Even now, as I speak it out loud, it just rings true to me. Like, this is what it's all about. Sovereignty through mathematics. Like, that is Bitcoin to me. So it had to go in. And there's Bitcoin, a peaceful revolution, which I have in there, which is a quote from Matt Odell. And then I have the chancellor on the brink of the second bailout for banks all the way at the bottom.
Of course.
Oh, and this time for number 4, like when I saw this tweet from Saifedean talking about like the eerie way that the stock to flow has been following the model over time, I was like, yeah, I think it's legit enough here. We should throw the mathematical equations in. So I grabbed all the math that I could find either from his GitHub or from different sources online, and then that's all engraved as well in that layer. So Bitcoin per day, Bitcoin per year. In the middle, you have the year. Top, as I said, this is how many you're issuing per day. Right now, we're only having 900 per day. So you can see like drastic reduction from this. Another thing that's neat to point out is that like half the Bitcoin that would ever exist are issued in this first halving. So 10,500,000 Bitcoin are issued in this first halving era. And I don't know, that's just crazy to me.
It really puts it into perspective.
Yeah, so there's our 900 per day, and this is how many per year. So we're getting 328,000 per year right now. So it's still, there's a lot of Bitcoin being mined per year. So that does still make it accessible. It's not too late. Like, I think we're still like way super early. This is just the first transaction, as I talked about before. How sending Finney. This is where you could see it on the blockchain. I had a little link to the, I think the blockchain.info explorer.
I love seeing that. That was the first time I'd seen that in the Block Explorer. And just to see it, you know, like you said, the UTXO model in action from the very beginning. It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah, this one is very neat. And then I'll talk about it later because it comes up. But yeah, there's a lot of neat stuff on chain, man. There's a lot of neat stuff there. So this is pretty intense. So each one of these little tiny is there that represents a difficulty adjustment. So it actually represents 10 difficulty adjustments. I have about 26 per year. So each one is little tiny boxes at the end represents 10 difficulty adjustments as you move forward in time. The big blocks here, these are years. So these track, years as you go through the halving. So you can see how it's kind of sectioned into little 4 year at a time sections. And then the large numbered amounts track every 210,000 blocks pretty much, which is the number of blocks that you have between a halving. Got all Satoshi's equations. Okay, this is a much clearer view of the Poisson distribution. And here you can even see the numbered minutes. So it's kind of tiny, but so the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-minute block time, and then it's referenced right there. Then you have this 1A Bitcoin address. I believe this is the hash of the block, and then this is the Merkle root of that block. Now, this stuff is super cool. This is one of those mind-blowing things that I didn't even know till I saw it and kind of put it in this arrangement. But the block rewards are kind of divided into 3 separate eras. So you have a double-digit reward era. So you have 50 Bitcoin per block, 25 Bitcoin per block, or 12.5 Bitcoin per block. And then you have a single-digit block reward area. What we're in right now. So we're in this first of the single-digit. Yeah, it's like some mind-bending shit. And then so you have the 6, the 3, the 1. And then all these, you have 28 sub Bitcoin per block reward. So it's like, I think pretty much anywhere in the single digit reward area, you'll probably be good. But man, you got to get it before you hit 17.
I'd never noticed that myself, man. That is cool to see. And
no,
man,
I never saw that.
They're starting to go quick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, supply shrinkage for sure. So these arcs at the bottom, they measure different things. So this measures Bitcoin issuance from 0 up to 21 million. And then this tracks the halvings from 0 to 34, which is the first block halving era with 0 block reward. What am I doing here? Oh, yeah. So this just goes over exactly what's held within this layer 15. So some of those things that are engraved, the script pub key, the Merkle root, the block hash, and then Satoshi's first address. Oh, yes. This is what I want to talk about. This is super duper cool. So this address, it's the first address that would ever existed. So the Genesis block, when it was mined, it pays 50 Bitcoin to this address. The super weird thing, it's unspendable. So you can't ever spend that Bitcoin. But people are sending Bitcoin to that address right now. Like if you check the Block Explorer, like you're going to see it's like somebody sent Bitcoin to it like 3 hours ago. It's just so weird. Wow. It's like all 12 years. Like I don't understand what it is. I've asked people. I haven't found a satisfactory answer. Gigi gave me some answer, but I was like, I don't know, man. As the block reward.
As if supply wasn't constrained enough, you got people throwing
unspendable
an unspendable address.
Well, yeah, exactly. You have the first stuff that's unspendable by default, and then people purposely basically burning Bitcoin.
Yep.
And it's like, why? Who are these people? What's going on here? Like, and why are they doing this? It makes me think.
That's wild.
So I want to talk a second about the certificate of authenticity here. So this is something that was kind of unique. So what I did was I wanted to put the certificate of authenticity for the full node on the Bitcoin chain. So that way the chain references the sculpture and the sculpture references the chain. And there's this never ending cycle, because like this will continue to be confirmed for infinity. So every 10 minutes, like this block is like reaffirming and confirming the certificate of authenticity. So what I did was I created a CoinJoin transaction so it would enhance the privacy for myself, really, because no one's gonna really. And in essence, what we did was we just made it so that all the inputs and all the outputs are really untraceable. You can't really see what's going on there, who's sending it to who. And one of these outputs actually had this data encoded with it. So if you're trying to be private, you probably shouldn't put your Twitter handle on chain. But in this case, like it was exactly what I wanted to do. And the really cool thing was that this full node sculpture was created on January 3rd. So it's like to celebrate Bitcoin Genesis Day. So when the first block was mined, it's like this that same day. So that's intense for me. And that a lot of people don't know is that in between that first block and the second block, there's like 5. So the next block was actually Mach 1 was mined, I think, on the 8th. So that's when I actually was able to make this transaction. So it was made on the 3rd to commemorate the Genesis block, and then the COA was created on the 8th to commemorate the mining of block 1. And so I actually engraved all this data, the script pub P, I engraved all that onto the back of the sculpture. So this is a thing that not a lot of people have seen, but the back actually does have all this engraved into it. So it has a message that I signed with my Bitcoin creator address. So this is my Bitcoin address, and here's the message. Basically tells you exactly what I just said, that was created on January 3rd. The COA was created on the 8th. And then you can see the signature here. So anybody can verify this. You could just take your own full node. Instead of being in your sign message tab, you just drop it into your verify message tab, and you'll see no bullshit. This is real.
Right.
I actually like created a whole bunch of different addresses. I was trying to find something that was like pretty in quotes to me, and it was late, and I thought I actually had this one that said NGU for number go up. I thought I had like a meme in the middle of my Bitcoin address, but like it was late, and the next day I looked and I was like, that's a fucking Q. So I didn't get it, but I tried. I generated like probably 10 addresses. That was the prettiest.
All right, 10's not so bad. When I read that, I pictured you just pressing, generate, I don't know, 1,000 times until you thought you saw
I
NGU.
just kept, well, 10 might be. Yeah, you're probably closer to right than I am. So this is just some like close-up stuff. So here you can actually see where it was included in this block at this block time, all the hex data that was that signature, and the actual COA, which is a certificate of authenticity, actually engraved into the full node itself. So that's most of the things about the full node. I do want to talk about functionality. A lot of people ask me, like, what does it do? What kind of, like, does everything move and all this? And like right now, no, it doesn't. However, it's something that I'm trying to build out. It's like one thing at a time. And so far, I haven't actually gotten to this point. But the end goal is to make basically a plugin for Bitcoin Core that instead of using the GUI that you are familiar with in Bitcoin Core, you'd be able to have this as a plugin that just runs on top of it, and it allows you to be able to look up transactions, create transactions, like do any kind of block explorer thing that you would want to do. So if you wanted to display a block, it will actually show you, oh, this is this point in time. And I think that would be valuable for people. There's also a projection project. This is something we did at the Bitcoin Hackathon in Miami in 2020 with a buddy of mine, Jesse. So we had worked on this project where we were doing projection mapping, and you project the light onto the full node, and then you can actually like display the current block stats. So if this is like what your node is displaying, you can actually show the current work state. So that's kind of the end game. We're not there yet. I do have a GitHub page that's got that all kind of written out and like conceptualized. So if anybody's a programmer and want to work with me on that project, I'm like totally open to it.
That's very cool, man. Yeah, it just kind of accentuates how like this is, I feel like we're peering into like an artist's life work here. You doing this series and iterating on it each time. And it just exemplifies so much of Bitcoin, specifically proof of work. Like, you know,
yeah,
it just doesn't take much.
I feel like this is proof of work. So it's like, yeah, in that Bitcoin ethos,
it's proof of work in the purest form. And, you know, it's like, I think about when I try to explain Bitcoin to people, a lot of people struggle because they can't visualize Bitcoin or the network. And that's part of what's so beautiful about what you've created here is that this is the visualization and kind of the most pure form of the network and all of the parts that bring it together.
Can we look at what the current bid is? Can you put that up there? That looks like,
let's put that up there.
A good number.
Oops.
Nice.
Yeah, we're looking at
moving on up.
Steve Munchin Butts, my man. I'm rooting for Steve. I'm rooting for Steve Munchin Butts on this one.
All right. You know, I thought that guy wasn't so great when he showed up with those sheets of dollars and his wife and everything, but now not so bad.
He's the perfect villain. Him and Craig.
He was holding Bitcoin this whole time.
I would not be surprised.
Yeah, they all are.
Awesome, man. Was there anything else you want to show us on that?
No, I think that was probably most of my stuff there.
Cool.
Unless you have questions, I can run through whatever.
I think we're good. I do want to close out with one question before we let you go.
Nice.
So for anyone who's not aware, if the high bidder does not pay up, their collateral gets donated to the Bitcoin nonprofit or developer of the artist's choosing. You chose BTC versus the Fed. For anyone who's been living under a Bitcoin art rock and isn't familiar with this project, can you talk us through it and tell us why you selected it?
Absolutely. Yeah, this is like a super worthy project, and I think all Bitcoiners should really rally behind something like this. This is like a grassroots thing where you'll have like an artist who's taking the time to bring Bitcoin to the masses. So this is super powerful stuff. Like, I'm not really sure if there's any even monetization for him on this. This is like really like an amazing thing, full of heart that he's doing. And what it is I think there's 12 states or 12 cities that house the Federal Reserve buildings, which are in essence the, like, I don't know, I want to say like the Sauron's tower of the monetary system. Well, so like, yeah, those eyes are staring out. And so what he's doing is creating like these Bitcoin shields that protect the population from this horrible like thing. And like hopefully create some thought-provoking things for themselves, make them investigate. Like, I think the what is money question is so deep that a lot of people just would do well to ask themselves that. So I think this project puts it in front of them with the really creative use of the dollar, which everybody recognizes, and throwing something a little subversive into that. So, I mean, I fully support this project, and I think it's amazing. And I think like any money that goes into it helps keep things up longer. So that's good. As we all know, time is money.
Absolutely. It's a very cool project. Crypto Graffiti really outdid himself on this one. And yeah, it's like part of what makes your art so special is the educational factor. And this does something similar, right? Yeah. It educates people in Bitcoin, and it educates them in, you know, the forces that have been working against them with our current monetary system. Yeah. And he strategically placed them in working class neighborhoods, right? Like these are the people that most benefit from understanding the way money is working today, and that there is another option through Bitcoin.
I think he was even explicit in saying what you just said, where that he wanted to make it so that like he saw a lot of hedge funds and like Wall Street people coming in and making money on Bitcoin. And he wanted like the little man to know that, hey, you can participate and benefit from this too. This isn't some Wall Street benefit shit. This is like some real thing that is digital real estate, and you can get a piece of it today and you can get like a small fraction of it. And it's going to help your family preserve the value that you've worked to create.
Absolutely, man. I mean, that's what part of what makes Bitcoin special is that from the Immaculate Conception, right? It went into the hands of the people before the institutions had a chance. So it's in the best interest of the network and in this movement to help the people get most of the benefits from Bitcoin before it moves on to the institutions.
Right. Exactly. You want the distribution to be as wide and fair as possible and not be reconcentrated into the same pockets that already have it. And they're figuring it out.
Yeah, absolutely cool.
Oh, you know what? One thing we didn't show was the embedded NFC. You want me to like
throw that up there.
Let me just show this real quick. So just what everybody knows, this is like a little microchip that's embedded right under the B. And if you have an NFC enabled smartphone or device, you could just wave it over that B, and you'll be able to pull up the Bitcoin signed message that I wrote, all the on-chain data that's engraved on the back, and the COA information. So all that is actually housed on a microchip that's embedded within the sculpture. So that's just something I wanted to mention does exist.
Very cool, man. Well, let's check in on this auction one more time. We still got Steve Munchin Butt in the lead. Plenty of time on this thing, though. We got 23 hours to go.
Huge to everybody that's bidding. Love you guys.
Absolutely.
Really means a lot.
Absolutely. And here's a shout out to all the bidders so far. Wow, we got got a lot of Bitcoin celebrities in here already. Love to see a lot of bids, Beautiful. Man. This is a lot of participation. Very cool to see.
Yeah, love this.
All right, Fractal and Crit, man. Well, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to auction this beautiful piece off. We're eternally grateful for the opportunity.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. I definitely want to give you guys a shout out before we close out because I'm really excited about what you're doing. I know that there's a lot of prosperity. There's a lot of economic activity happening on Ethereum, and that's really cool for some people. It's just not my bag. Like I have all respect for that, and I'm actually happy like for all the artists, but for me, it's just not something that I wanted. So I'm super enthusiastic to have a method to bring my art on chain and some of the stuff that you guys are doing with the Lightning Network and making this possible. It's really exciting, and I'm excited to see where we go in the future. Cheers.
Much appreciated, man. And we're honored to be a part of this thing, but full credit where it's due. It's really some of the Bitcoin artists that led the way here and showed us what was possible here, specifically Chief Monkey. Also want to give a shout out to Crypto Graffiti and kind of, the leader of this space for a long time and has influenced so many other Bitcoin artists to get into it. And we're just happy to create a platform to, create more opportunities for Bitcoin artists. Like there's so much talent out here. And
it needs a place to go. You have to have a place to focus that energy.
Absolutely, man. So we're excited to see where this goes. And again, I'm honored to participate in this auction for you. Very excited to see how the next 22 hours and 55 minutes go for you.
I'm super excited. Let's see how it goes. Much love, everybody. Thanks again.
All right. See you, Fractal.
Take care.
All right. Right before we leave off, I'm just going to go through the mechanics of this auction one more time for anyone who's trying to get familiar with it. If you want to place a bid, come down here. You press this arrow to automatically put in the minimum winning bid. You can up your amount with these arrows here. We do the math for you. We convert to US dollars. We tell you how much you need to deposit as collateral for this. Once the item is paid for, everybody gets this collateral back. This is just what we hold on to keep the high bidder accountable for their bid. Put in the email address. That's all we ask for from you. It can be any email address as long as you have access to it. We do require this to verify the winner, so make sure you do have access for it. And once you put in the email address, if it's your first time, you're going to put in a display name, put in whatever you want. I should be careful saying that because we really aren't censoring this, but have some fun with it. This is all anyone's going to see. No one's going to see your email address. They're just going to see your display name. Place your bid, pay your ins either on Lightning or on chain. Again, if you do pay on chain, we do need one confirmation within the standard auction time for that bid to count, and on-chain bids will be disabled within the final 15 minutes. We want to keep the action going quickly within that hot zone. And again, within that hot zone, final 15 minutes, any bid resets the countdown to 15 minutes, and we cannot end on a pending bid. All right, everybody. Well, thanks for joining. It's been a lot of fun. We will be broadcasting live again in just under 24 hours, I guess about 22 hours from now. We'll be joined by Vizik, who is going to recap the auction action with us, as we also talk about Bitcoin collectibles, the traditional Bitcoin collectibles. Vizik's been a Bitcoin collectible OG collector from the early days in the Bitcoin Talk forums, and he's going to educate us on everything that's special about that space. So we're really looking forward to that. If you have any questions, hit us up on Twitter. DMs are open, or you can email me at chris@scarce.city. All right, everybody, happy bidding.